Hello everyone and welcome back to another weekly altered video. New year, new me, old deck. Haven't played this one for a while, Treyst Rossum. There's been a few sets that have actually come out since we tried this one, but the bulk of it is relatively the same. So a lot of Beyond the Gates in here because the shell of the deck all originates from there. So this did exist in, say, like 80%, if not more, of its entirety at set 1, but we don't play brown, so it took us a while to find it. Deck is built around the Ouroboros and Brassbug Hive, so those are our only 6 permanents in the deck. Resupplying, revealing the top 2, so you rip through a lot of your deck, and then late game, hopefully you have a Brassbug Hive in play, and you can use a lot of support abilities and cheap spells to pump out a lot of brass bugs that are all boosted as well. Mechanical training, Gibble, Dr. Frankenstein, Inari, and our 2 uniques all activate the enters ability of permanents we control. Play very well with both of these cards. Either you rip through the top 2 cards of your deck, or like I said, you poop out the brass bugs. So that's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 play sets of commons and rares plus 2 more is 14 of the cards are basically built to get more value out of those, plus an Ada Lovelace that we'll revisit in a little bit. Basically, you're trying to get Treyst and Rossum online as quickly as possible. So for those who haven't seen them before, not sure why you're here, just kidding, they're welcome. But whenever a card leaves reserve during your turns, you gain a scrap counter. Once you've got enough, you can draw a card, put a card from hand into reserve. So early on, got to try and find a way to get these cards into reserve. A lot of resupply, 3 frozen delivery, 3 axiom salvages, the 2 copies of Ada Lovelace plus the unique, which we'll revisit in a bit, and obviously the Ouroboroses as well. So early game, you want to try and put one of these into play, resupply a whole bunch, and then transition from that into your Brassbug Hives, activating out of reserve. In theory, it is entirely possible to get to the 5 scrap counters on turn 2 with a not insignificant amount of luck, but anywhere between turns 3 and 5 are much more likely. Because we don't know what we're doing with numbers in it or anything like that, a lot of 3-ofs. The only 2-of in the deck is the Ada Lovelace. We've got a little match girl in there, just as a 1-of to see how it goes. Have a couple of question marks on that one, but it's worth a shot. Draws cards, we like that. So we'll go through the uniques now. Sap Sniffer, 2, 3 from reserve for a 2/1/2. When it leaves the expedition, if it's fleeting, augment any number of target cards in play or reserve. If this gets removed and you have a bunch of brass bugs on the field, you can buff them, but apart from that, you are highly unlikely to actually augment anything of value. But the second ability, when you create a token, if you control 2 or more permanents, target character in play or reserve other than me gains a boost. So if you have this out when you're making a lot of brass bugs, and you are set up with, say, a copy of Ouroboros and Brassbug Hive, this can give a lot of boosts, and it has that extra very important text of activating enters abilities. The second one, is the unique copy of Ada Lovelace, so that's why we're down to the 2 rares. But it can put a card from reserve to do the same thing. From reserve gains a boost, and it has a secondary, less important support ability to put a card from hand in reserve. So really important. Obviously, we're trying to put stuff into reserve with Treyst, so this isn't negligible, but a lot of the time you'd like to get a couple extra boosts out of what's in the landmarks. And then the last one is a Daughter of Yggdrasil. Supportability, activate the triggers of target permanent you control. Fun fact, the wording of this changed between the Kickstarter Beyond the Gate set and the official release. So this one includes the word triggers, so this one is actually different to any of the other ones that come through with Inari, for example. And yeah, basically we're trying to rip through as much of our deck as possible, get a brass bug into play in a comfortable, relatively early position, which is what the Foundry mechanics are for, and then take over from there. A lot of ways to put power into play for very cheap. All of your support abilities that activate the triggers cost 0, so 0 for 3 power. Seems like a pretty good deal to me. Mechanical training, also good. Two casts on that will get you 6 power. And yeah, that's basically what we're doing. Got steamrolled by this one about a week ago. Thought, you know what, I'm gonna build it. It's been a while since we played Treyst on the channel, and I can assure you, haven't done it myself yet, but you are incredibly likely to have to shuffle your discard back into your deck because you will just see everything. But we'll give it a go. Let's hope that we can do that at least once. Let's hope for some good games, and let's hope that our opponents aren't playing permanent removal. See you in game 1. And here we are for game 1 of Treyst and Rossum. We shall see how it goes. You'll have seen the deck tech by this point. We're up against a Ghoulrang and Toxin. I would hope that the end game is favourable for us, if they're going to be playing slow and blocking us, which they will be able to do. Most of our creatures are pretty cheeks. But our brass bugs will be 3/3/3s. Their recruits will be 2/2/2s for the most part. I think what we'll do here is see what they want to do with the Grems and Frozen Delivery. Getting that one into reserve is never a bad thing early on, but we'll see what we hit off this. Brass Bug Hive. Game's given away straight away. Right, field reinforcements, so they'll draw a card, make a recruit. We're going to play the Gremlin out on the other side anyway. And hope that they don't have a 1-drop. Mobile delivery or artillery or whatever it's called might be one that they could play. That'd block us. But we will get a sneaky advance in. Ain't too mad about that. Frozen Delivery. We'll keep the Brass Bug Hive here as a potential sabotage target anyway. And then we'll get to see what they want to do. Second Grems, not as exciting. Notably, we're playing common Grems here, which means we can hit Ordis Carriers, but we will not be able to hit the Mesquitettes that they have. So that might be a reason for us to play the rares, if we can find the space for it. But we'll see what they want to do. Drawing an additional card is entirely allowed. Two mana means they can't play Sunissa, I think it is. We'll just start getting Treyst online here. Nothing to hit. Nothing they can play this turn. Five cards in hand is scary. We can recoup that, especially once Treyst is online. We can rip through a large chunk of our deck. But it's getting to the point where the stats that they can put on the board are going to be a hindrance to us. I wonder. 5 mana means Orders Carrier field reinforcements. We are ahead, so we could take the time off to get an Ouroboros into play. And then just play out the Salvager for a empowered resupply. Yeah, we're going to have a decision to make here, because whichever side we play the Salvager on is going to be blocked. But I think we don't get greedy with it. Pardew's not a bad hit. If they want to sabotage that, we're okay with it. And now we've got an opportunity. So we could take another advance here. 5 cards in hand. It's likely that our opponent will have some form of license withdrawal in hand. And we're reasonably well set up. Going to be able to get the Brassbug Hive into play this turn if they don't sabotage it away. But if they do, it means we get Treyst and Rossum online. So we'll be able to do that either way. Supportability into Hive makes it hurt a little bit less. I think if that's the case, we're likely going to want to keep the backup Hive in hand and put the Inari into reserve with Treyst. Does that make sense? I think so. If we were greedy, if we assume they have no license withdrawal in hand, I think the better play would be to get Hive into play, Frozen Delivery. But I am worried about that. So I think we'll take the safe option. We've always got the backup of dropping Inari into play if they decide to get rid of it. If they've got everything, so the Order Spy plus license withdrawal, well, they wouldn't be able to put any extra power onto the board. So we'll do the thing, make them have it. If we could get a 1-drop off of Treyst Rossum, we'd be cheering. Dr. Frank ain't it, but that's good for next turn. We'll use Inari's support ability on the Ouroboros and rip through more of our deck. Oh, now that is a choice. We've got the extra mana. So I think we'll use it. We'll pass the turn. So they do have the blocker. That's alright, haven't moved for quite a while. But we're working through it. Still 5 cards, highly likely that they're keeping another license withdrawal in hand for this. And with 7 mana, with the reduction from the Foundry Mechanic, we can Brassbug Hive Dr. Frank. We'll use the support ability. Makes it hurt a little bit less. And then drop a Brassbug. Sap Sniffer plus Gibble is going to be good next turn, so we'll Dr. Frank. And then get another bug into play. And see what it is that they want to do. We're 4 ahead on one ahead on another. Just drawn a redonkulous amount of cards this turn. Ordis Trooper would block. But I think we get greedy here. Another Mobile Armory does it as well. But if we're set up with a Brassbug Hive... Oh, there you go. Templar does it too. Can't be mad about that. Probably should have played the Inari as a way to play around that, because they're going to have first dibs at a license withdrawal here. They just drew 4 extra cards off of the Conjuring Seal. And as such, we're going to be in a bit of a pickle if they get rid of this guy. Which, again, we probably expect. Now, it's probably too many Gibbles. Pardew's something good that we can actually play out if we need to. But we will in fact pop off if they don't have it. But they do. Going to try and contest on two sides here. Orders Gatekeeper is something they could have. If it's at the rear, it's going to put a lot of power into play. So we're a little bit scared about that, but it means they won't get their Templar out. Mesquite is interesting as well. We'll Treyst Rossum here. Put Pardew into reserve. Make an aerolith token. Don't want to give it to our opponent. We'll have 8 to 4. 8 to 4. It's actually irrelevant which side we play it out on. We'll take a double advance. They didn't have another Orders Templar, or Aegis Templar in hand, which we are happy about. Alright, Brassbug Hive number 3. We don't need to rip with Ada anymore, so we'll keep the unique version around. And we'll see if they have Dr. Frank is good for next turn. Hive number 3, do you have license withdrawal number 3? If they have a sticky note seal, I'm just going to crash out, that's fine. Cancel the video, we're not doing one this week. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We can get another 9 power onto the board. We do have to play out the Ada before we get to do anything exciting. And they've got 5 mana remaining. But we will be able to, with both of these in the bin, be able to resupply with the Ouroboros and the Aerolith token, which is something. At least we get to spend our remaining mana. Other than me gain a boost. Okay, so that's it. That's good to know about. Six, 7. We can go up to 12, or we can go up to 9. We'll resupply, see what we can get done. And Nari is nice. But we do have to commit. We're just going to use all three. No reason to get greedy with it. If they have a second character, they can block us. This way, they need the second character to be able to advance, because the Templar will give it a boost, so they'll go to tie and then one more. Doesn't get enough into play, even the third. Ooh, that's a good card. Now they've got 2 more mana, so they can likely block us here too. Oh no, they can just boost, so they don't need to do anything. They'll sleep their doppelganger. Guess we'll sleep one of our bugs because we actually want Ada in reserve. That's cool tech. So keeping it around for an extra turn. They're not going to be too worried about getting rid of 3 cards here. Most likely Seal and the Templars. So they want to keep the doppelganger around a little bit longer. I think I'm more interested in getting up to high levels of mana because there's a chance we can draw 2 cards here with the little match girl. Once again being punished for not playing any removal. Boom would be nice, though we'd have to get rid of our Ouroboros. If they're heads up, they will hypothermia first. They do not. Yeah, a boom or a Keylon burst would be awesome here. So that's something we'll have to think about when we're looking at this deck post these games. Frozen Delivery is a stinky one to have drawn here, because it means if we use it, we can't actually get 2 cards off the little match girl. So I guess we're just going to keep going with it. And see what we can get done here. 8 mana is so much. Funnily enough, if we had the sap sniffer out when they'd done this, we'd have at least had something to contest their doppelganger. But that's my fault. Overextended, got punished, and we'll see what we can get done now. We get to draw one card with the match girl. Not a good one. And I guess we'll be hoping that one of our remaining use from reserve support abilities for the permanents is what we can get. Let's see, we can count here. How many hits do we have? There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in discard, and there are, go away, 1, 8. So we should have, I think that's it. I think that's all of them. So there's the 3 Inaris, 1, 2, 3, 3 Gibbles, 1, 2, 3, and then our 2 unique. So we're actually drawing poorly here. And if they have anything remaining in hand, which they don't, so we do get to advance, which we only need to do once more. But we are up against it. So we're going to be 23 cards going back into do I want to spend more for the resupply, or we won't be able to put Pardew into reserve here. So I think that we'd actually rather pay more for the resupply. We'll even everything up so that, because they can't target the doppelganger with its own boost. Doesn't matter anyway, forgot about Mesquitettes. That's cool, we cool. Ain't no stress. This card has single-handedly kept their recruits in parity with our brass bugs, which has been troublesome. We'll start off slow with a frozen delivery and see what we can hit. Inari's good. Still haven't seen their third copy of License Withdrawal, because we still have a brass bug in play. And we're going to contest on the doppelganger side here. See what we get done. We are well behind. We've got more mana actually. So it's all going to depend on what the Ouroboros and Treyst can draw for us. If they'd had license withdrawal, they would have used it. They might have drawn it just off Silas there. But it's basically just a stat check. Alright, Staff Clerk. It itself will gain a boost. Now is Daughter of Yggdrasil worth more to us here? In play. I actually think she is. She adds 7 to the board for 2 mana. Our opponent draws a card. Okay, no, so there is math to do here. He'll get an extra 3, we get an extra 7. So we go to 16, he goes to 18. Giving him a card here. So if they play... So if they play anything, we're probably losing this turn. Oh, that is stressy. So they go to 19. That is stinky. 1 more power. So putting this little bug out would have done it for us. But they would have played something else on the other side anyway. This is a stressy game. I was not ready for this first off the rip. Thankfully they actually advance. I kind of think we prefer that. Although we're going to lose a tiebreaker if it comes to that. We'll discard our second Ouroboros. Thank you for your service. That resupply was juicy. And I think I assume they're going to keep. Yeah, I assume they're going to keep Silas and Doppelganger around. We were very lucky to not be triggering Silas throughout all of that. Yeah, they're going to get an obscene amount of power off of these Mesquitettes, but do they trigger in Tiebreaker? I don't think. Yeah, I don't know if they do. I hope they don't, for my sake. But this opponent's deck has been cool. Get rid of Silas, play the Staff Clerk, that's cool. Sorry, I thought that was the pass button. We still need to contest here. We're not in tiebreakers yet. And we'll get the Staff Clerk in around the, sorry, we'll get the Dr. Frank in around Staff Clerk. So they know what we're doing now. Potentially better to play Ada out on the other side. See if we could sneak another victory over on that side. But I think it's unlikely at this point. Alright, so probably going to have to find some space in this list. Could have played around that. For some reason they chose themselves. We'll use the empowered bug on the other side. Still no license withdrawal from them. Maybe they only run the 2. Where are we more likely to win? The hero side. One, two, three. No Aegis Templars. And we go to tiebreakers. We get to learn something here. Does Messick Tet trigger in tiebreakers? So, educational YouTube video. I'm putting it in the chat. And this is just a flat out battle. Okay, they do trigger. Disappointing. I think we would have been in a really good spot if we weren't considered behind or tied. We'll draw off Treyst and Rossum first. Put the Brass Bug Hive back into play. That is the fourth one we've played this game. Doing a madness. And then we'll get a paltry 1 extra boost off of the Sap Sniffer, unless they have Sabotage. Conscription is rough for us. Oh, it only creates 1. So it's actually worse than the Attorney at this point. If they play out the Attorney and we use a Nari, then it does nothing. The Inari actually, with the 2 Brass Bugs, notably better to use as a support ability. So it's 2 mana for 3/3/3, or at the moment it's 0 mana for 4/4/4. Our opponent's timing out. We'll see what it is they want to get done. So we can end up with 24, 26, 24, 74 points. So with their remaining 4 mana, they need to go from 39 to 75. Teamwork training, ain't it, Chief? Okay. that is the brief. Alright, they concede. GG, that was a fun one. What do they play? Gulrang. Alright, off to a good start. On to game 2. And we're back for game 2. Treyst Rossum, I missed the thing. I apologise. Our opponent is very new. Up in the top right here, you can see they've got 1 elo point. And as such, we'll push it and we'll see what we can get done. But I apologise in advance to our opponent here. Lock the screen. Frozen delivery is a good start here. Into another one. Doing a madness. We could roll the dice. And see if we get a 1 drop off of it, but I think the safe thing to do will be to just drop Pardew. If they drop a 1 mana 1/1/1, they would be able to block us and go ahead. But they don't. Get rid of one of our frozen deliveries. They're fine to get rid of because we're probably not playing 2 of those in a turn. 2 activating the enters abilities is pretty good here. We're going to be able to, if we want, get up to 2 scrap counters this turn. And then look to pop off next turn. Could play Pardew on the opposing side and then frozen delivery. And what do we like better here? Inari is better stats, costs more from hand, so if we get to the point where that goes into reserve, we'll be happier. And the Sap Sniff is a bit more of a late game card. So that one really pops off when you've got your setup going and you can make a bunch of brass bug tokens. We'll lock in the gains from the Pardew with the Aerolith and the scrap token. Resupply and see what we can get. Dr. Frank will be good. That incentivizes us to drop the Ouroboros this turn. And because they'll be able to block anyway with Nevenka, I think we're okay taking a 0 for 2 here. Roll a 6, get the anchored, not good for us. Because we're on blue on that side, so they'll always be able to do the thing. And I think we're okay. We'll keep the Inari in hand. There is entirely the possibility that we'd have been able to high roll and actually get Treyst Rossum online that turn. But we would have to be somewhat lucky. Can hit Dr. Frank's, Inari's, Gibbles. All of our uniques do it as well. Ada is worse than the others, but we'll risk it for the biscuit here. And the Grems is actually not a bad pickup. We'll play Dr. Frank out. get our scrap counter and see what we've got to keep it going. We hit one of our uniques, the Daughter of Yggdrasil. Not great to play from reserve, your opponent gets to draw a card. He's a pretty big fatty. But we'll see what we can get done. So, Daughter's good here, hit another Inari. Really on the lookout for a Brassbug Hive. Now, our opponents only showed cards from beyond the gates, so I am expecting that they're just playing a starter deck. We'll sacrifice our Aerolith token and play out the bug. No luck on hitting anything else, but we've got 2 more shots out of 1 drop, so we get to see what our opponent wants to do. So if they're playing a Lyra starter deck, that means Cloth Cocoons are in there, which can get rid of our permanents. And Tanukis are there as well. Drop the Ada. Got lucky there with that one. Smoke the Gibble. And this doesn't really matter because we're likely going to keep Inari in the Foundry mechanic here, on the hope that we draw a Brassbug. Evened everything up, as is eventually expected. Could see an Asmodeus out of our opponent. They won't be able to play the other 2. But we'll see what we can get done. We're online. Ripped through there on turn 3. I think from hand, Ada is better than mechanical training here. So she enables you from hand, gains a boost for each landmark you control from reserve, also has a very relevant support ability, which we like to see, but very good when you have a Brassbug out on the field. Okay, our opponents decided to block us. We'll use the first Inari support ability, see if we can hit our 3 of Hive. We do get one. Inari into reserve. That was stupid of me. We have the 2 Foundry mechanics. Could have played Ada on this turn as well. That's alright, we're just being greedy here. And we're going to reduce the cost of the second Brassbug, which we have a 2 out of 9 chance of hitting. Hoping for the anchored there, I think they were. Good choice from our opponent. Anchoring the croupier would have provided no stat buff. Seven mana means we can play Ada resupply. See if we can get another bug out. Ooh, 2 in 7. I think we high roll. There you go. 2 brass bugs. 6 cards remaining. Eventually we found one. We use both our support abilities here. Get the remaining bug in play. And that's it, we should be online. Or we should be good to go from here. So we want to get the salvager into reserve. Could have blocked them. So that's a small bleed as well. Not playing this game optimally. That's alright. They should be 1 behind. I would argue that the Ouroboros is less valuable than the 2 bugs here. And we got trips. So we're likely going to play or Treyst Foundry Mechanic into reserve, play the bug. And then see what we can get done from there. Or will we? Doing it this way actually gets us an extra bug off of Ada Lovelace as well. And then whichever side I think they decide to play out, they roll a 6. No reason not to see what the next card would be. We'll discard the bug because we get a chance to play it before they get to do anything. I believe with the extra 5 power, they shouldn't be able to hit anything. Ouroboros Trickster from reserve could have done it. If they'd got the double and then Nevenka'd something. But there you go. Alright, sorry opponent. Kind of cool to see that we've got the 3 bugs out though. 1 card left in reserve, so we saw literally everything that we've got. What's the point of playing cards if you don't get to see them? And GG. On to the next one. We'll still do our thing. Nevenka starter. Save. Hit him with the GG and move on to game 3. And we're back for game 3. Remember to hit record to prove we're playing the same deck. Our opponent's making a decision. Checked their nameplate and the little 30-second wait before a game starts. And we have played them before where they showed us a Sierra and Oddball deck. So better odds than anything else. So we're going to see an Axiom matchup here. We're playing first. And we actually see a Warun Mac. Cool! Love that for us. Love this guy. Alright. I think... I think I want to keep the frozen delivery. Mechanical training is good, but the most replaceable effect. And Pardew plus the Grems is a way to continue resupplying. Not the greatest hand. Immediately punished if they play a Monolith Legate with Sabotage. We'll be in trouble. Can't do that. Not too mad about the hypothermia here, actually. It means we get to keep our frozen delivery around. They're obviously going to be happy with a slow game, but so are we. So I would argue it favours us, except the fact that they've got access to many, many license withdrawals. This is the 3rd mechanical training that we've got. 2 already in mana. Do we make it trips? On the hope that Inari is good later on. I think so. Mechanical training notably worse than the support abilities. Because it doesn't trigger Treyst and Rossum. We'll get rid of the 2nd Ouroboros. Not much need for that one compared to the Gibble. We'll see what our opponent wants to do. I'm going to get rid of the Brass Bug Hive here because Ada actually lets us continue ripping and we can get Treyst online this turn. We'll play the frozen delivery, see what else we can get. And I think we'll keep the Ada around this turn. So no reason to trigger Treyst this turn, because we're going to have to send something to the bin anyway. I think I like the idea of the little match girl here because we're going to play first. And that's a choice. So we could play a little bit slower here. We'll use Pardew's support ability. And is there any way for us to get our hand empty this turn? No, not with that. We'll play out a second Ouroboros, resupply. Play out the Inari and see what our opponent wants to get done. Grand Endeavour. Okay. We're going to Inari. Trigger the Ouroboros and hope that we can get a Grems into play. Maybe. Can't get a Grems into play, but we can actually have one set up for next turn already, which is nice. Our opponent's down. They'll draw the card off of the Attorney. We'll get rid of the second Ouroboros here. And we're actually having a pretty hard time emptying our hand and reserve for this match girl. This is going to be a problem. That is also going to be a problem. So they just win here. They double advance at noon. They're ahead. And we have no removal in our deck. They win in 2 turns, so we have to take a double advance here, and then we lose anyway. Surprisingly, because we were ripping so hard, not actually set up for a brass bug hive here. Play the Axiom Salvager and see what they want to get done with their remaining mana. curious to see. Do they just win at noon? Or did the changes to small step, giant leap also impact how Grand Endeavour wins the game? I'm very curious. Got a pair there. Didn't matter what we played. Okay, so small step, giant leap used to just win as soon as your two expeditions touched. They changed that so that the check for it was at dusk. If our opponent's heads up, they may decide to sleep their Sandman. Four cards in deck. Mannered one, brass bug, discarded another. I guess we get to see what it is they want to do with their life. It's alright. This is a learning experience for us. I'm really excited to see what happens here. Frozen delivery is not going to be useful as useful as an extra mana will be. But our hand is notably thin on reserve effects. What happens? So you're saying there's a chance. Probably not. They've got 6 mana worth of stats that they can drop. They're ahead on both. I think if we drop the brass bug hive, we just lose here. Yeah, they'll give someone a minor sleep. Most likely the Dr. Frank. And then they'll just win. Good on them. That's cool. Any instance of boom or conditionless permanent removal would have broken it up, but we're not playing that. That's alright. Cool. I'm happy with that one. Can't be upset losing to something that interesting. So props to them for playing Waro and Mac. They probably would have won anyway because of the way advances work. The further you get, the more likely you are to actually win. And we weren't really set up for slowing them down there. Ain't too mad about that. Cool. 3 games done. Sierra and Waru. Good on ya. Alright. See you in a second. And we're done. 3 games finished with Treyst and Rossum. Traced the process, which we did. And it worked out pretty well for us. A 2-1 record. We beat Gulrang and Toxin in a absolutely amazing game. Gotta say, that one was insane. 44-minute game is not common, but sort of just trading blows and seeing who could put more power onto the board in the late game was pretty skits. Glad we got over the line there, but I wouldn't have been upset to lose that one. Bit of a nothing game in the middle there. No offense to our opponent. Pretty sure they were using a Lyra starter deck though, and I would hope that anything that we can construct out of our collection would hopefully be better than a starter deck. Pretty comfy with that one, not taking too much off of it. And a lost game to Waru and Mac, so a couple of Orders heroes that don't get featured a lot. Really excited to see that. Learnt a lot from that one, even if it might not necessarily be indicative of what the deck needs to beat more meta decks, but permanent removal, geez, could have done with that, hey. Even just getting rid of one of those Grand Endeavours on the turn it came down would have been probably enough to get us over the line. And we've got a few ideas out of it. So, not a lot to change. There are a lot of cards in here that you absolutely desperately need. I'm very happy for once that we're actually taking up one of our rare slots with a unique, because it means we get another one in there. So that's why we were running the little one of Match Girl to see how it went. Not really impressed with that one because it is hard to have both your hand and reserve empty when you play her. Treyst, by definition, draws extra cards and puts them into reserve, so at most you're usually going to be getting just the one extra draw, and I don't think it's worth having her in there for those situations. The other thing we were missing, just other general removal. Now, this deck's a little bit different compared to some of the others that we play as well, and as such I think we don't need to have like a sufficient amount of removal because we're so likely to see the entirety of our deck that even just having one ofs or two ofs in there is probably enough that we've got at least something to dig for, with some reasonable chance of finding it. So the only changes we're going to make is we're going to cut the little Match Girl. We're going to cut one copy of Frozen Delivery. A good starter, but not something you want to see every single game. And then we're going to cut a copy of the Grems. Now, this is good. We're replacing it with other removal, but without having the Pardus on the field, it's very rare that you're going to want to sacrifice one of your permanents to make the Brass Bug. Obviously, if you've got the Ouroboros and Brass Bug Hive in play, you'll usually sack the Ouroboros to get extra power on the board, but I think we can afford to go down one of those as well. So we've got 3 slots to play with, and the ones that we identified is that we want to play 2 copies of the Keylon Burst, rare spells, some other form of removal as well. What do we got in the collection? I was thinking Boom would be the go, but I actually think it might be Blizzard. We could consider trying to get hooked in there, but our rare slots are so taken up with stuff that I would consider absolutely mandatory that we really only have the one to play with, and I think in those situations the Blizzard is most likely going to be more valuable. Hooked's better early, Blizzard's better late. Gets around Parliament of Ashes, effectively clears the board, does cost 5 mana, but we should be able to find places to fit that one in, and that's what the deck's going to look like for next time. This was fun. Wouldn't recommend playing it on the phone client necessarily. There is a lot of clicking involved in setting through your turns. So if you have the Ouroboros out and you can chain together 2, 3, 4 support abilities that all resupply, you know, maybe if your screen's a little bit bigger than mine, you're liable to get through it, but I have misclicked those a few times. So if you're looking for something a little bit different, I can recommend this one as a fun one to play. I don't think it is the Treyst Rossum list that would be topping any sort of tournaments, but it is a fun one to play if you've got the cards hanging around. Highly recommended that you have some form of ways to trigger the enters abilities in your uniques. So both of ours have the support ability here, plus Ada does it when you play her from both hand and reserve. There is a cost involved, but we're usually pretty happy to pay that cost when we're trying to put stuff in reserve anyway, because it is absolutely imperative that if you're chaining through with the Ouroboros or trying to trigger your brass bugs as much as possible, that you find those effects specifically. So going from 6 to 8 is a really big deal, and potentially the 9th as well. When you factor in that you've got another 6 that you can play, you will likely hit something if you drop them. If you drop the Ouroboros or your Brass Bug Hive. One of the cards I was thinking about was Axiom Signet. Either the common or the rare copy, if you can find space for it, would I think be good. If I were to cut something for it, it might be in the Pardus or just getting off of the Grems entirely. Maybe we'll try that out. We'll push it a little bit further than I think is standard, but yeah, that's about it. Actually, let's do that. We're not going to play a game with it, but get rid of that one. No, I've only got one copy. Alright, I'll have to buy another one before we showcase it again. But yeah, that's fun. Alright, that one's done. It's going to be a long video because that first bloody game. I had to take a break after that one though. You know, go calm myself down. So yeah, enjoy, take it easy, see you next week. Love your work.